Hey guys, Nick Horton, the Iron Samurai here. I got my beautiful manatee, otherwise known as the Squat Princess, aka T-Bone. Driving a car. We're going to Durham because she's going to do a mock meet at CrossFit Durham. We've been at CrossFit Durham quite a few times.
We love CrossFit.
We do. We love CrossFit Durham. That's like fucking 4 hours away though, so this is quite a trip. So what we've done is we have created a new web show, like a subsidiary of our normal Weightlifting Academy TV, and we're going to call it Ask the Unicorns. And all it is we, get y'all to ask us some questions about weightlifting or whatever, and we're going to answer those fucking questions. And we're going to try to do this in like short spurts, so like one question, one answer, and that's the whole episode. Because we have this tendency to talk for like an hour at a time, and
True.
Lots of you love that, and because you'll watch our show, and that's great. We appreciate the fact that you are interested for some unknown reason in listening to me and Tamara talk about nothing ad nauseum. But these are going to be like, question and answer, and then that's it. And then we'll move on to the next one, the next episode. So, Ask the Unicorns, episode 1. We got. Let's see. Sorry, I turned on her iPhone.
I'm a manatee unicorn. Let's just be clear.
She is a manatee unicorn. She's like a unicorn of the sea, except a river.
Bulky manatee with a unicorn horn.
Manatees are not brackish, however. They live in like what, rivers or something?
No, you can find them in the freaking ocean.
You can find manatees in the ocean. Oh, by the way, we were just turning on the video camera, and we're gonna answer a bunch of questions, and we drove by a sign that said, what did it say?
It said something Baptist Church. Jesus is the answer.
Yes.
So, well, there goes our show. We were gonna
our whole show now.
All of these questions, but Jesus is apparently.
Yeah.
The answer.
Ask the Unicorns. The answer is always the same.
So,
Jesus.
For those of you who wanted to know about improving your snatch and clean and jerk, apparently
Jesus is the answer. That's it.
The billboard told me so.
Yeah, the billboard said it. Must be true. So we asked this on Facebook. We said, "Give us some questions, mofo's," and you did because you're wonderful. So Robert Myers, you are #1 episode asking of the unicorns. You said, "Is there?" Well, no, you didn't. You said, "Are there?" I can't even read. Are there any real benefits to training the overhead squat? Now it turns out this is a question you got some shit for answering in the past. Well, I did at least, and then Tamara went out and like made it worse, as usual.
So good at that.
So I wrote this 2-part article for Breaking Muscle called, I don't even know what it's called. Like, oh yeah, why don't Olympic lifters overhead squat? And I had to make it 2 parts because it was kind of long. And I basically explained all the reasons why, for the most part. It's not universally true, but for the most part, most Olympic lifters past like the rank beginner phase don't use the overhead squat as an exercise. They don't really do that. It's pretty rare. There are programs that do it, some really good programs that do it, but it, just like statistically, it's not very common. And I wasn't like necessarily lambasting the overhead squat. I was just trying to explain why it is statistically uncommon in most Olympic lifting clubs to do the overhead squat as a standalone exercise when you're no longer a ranked beginner. Well, unfortunately, there's a whole subset of CrossFitters out there who really got pissed off about this.
It's one of the fundamental movements.
Yeah, it's one of their like 9 or 28 or 1,000 fundamental movements.
This because I am in fact a CrossFit level 1 trainer.
She is. She's also like the opposite of born again. You're like a dead again CrossFitter.
Teach you how to overhead squat with PVC pipe if you want to.
So she used to actually be a CrossFitter, unlike me. So she might have already known beforehand this is going to piss people off. I sometimes am a little bit clueless about this shit, and I just write articles trying to like actually, be honest and tell you what I think. And unfortunately, sometimes I piss people off. It's happened many times.
So I want to answer this from the perspective of a former CrossFitter.
Okay, a current weightlifter, former CrossFitter is going to answer this question.
Overhead squatting.
Yes.
Did not actually ever make me better at snatching. Period.
Boom!
End of story. In fact, I think I could probably overhead squat like 60 or 65 kilos.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even weigh that much as a CrossFitter, so it was like, at the time, that was a big overhead squat.
Right. You weighed like 20 kilos in your CrossFit.
And like I couldn't even snatch like 45 kilos.
Yeah.
Because for me, they're nothing alike. I mean, they're nothing alike. The overhead squat, you can jerk the bar up, and then you can take as long as you want to squat that damn thing down to the bottom.
Yeah.
You can go as slow as you want. That's not what happens on a snatch.
No.
So, in terms of even fixing like people's bottom position,
yeah.
I did do some of that when I was a weightlifter, like a very new weightlifter, like just snatching the bar and then like doing overhead squats and sitting in the bottom.
Yeah.
But again, like not just an overhead squat for weight. Like the point of like kind of sitting down in the bottom and learning to get comfortable with the bottom position, which is not what we're talking about when someone says they're gonna like overhead squat a big ass heavy weight.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've ever overhead squatted anything close to my current snatch PR.
So as of right now,
shocked because I haven't overhead squatted in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I think I did it once like 2 years ago for fun. I don't know what it was, but like the hardest part for me used to be jerking the weight up.
Yeah.
And that's really not a problem.
Completely irrelevant to your snatch. Yeah. It's a weird skill.
So yeah, for me, when we've had lifters that need some of the things that like people might think an overhead squat helps with, I definitely like snatch balances or drop snatches or whatever you want to call, and that's actually part of our warm-up with lightweight anyway for snatches, just to like actually warm up the bottom position.
Yeah.
I have only had one lifter that I had work on overhead squats, specifically for weight, and that was because it was our one lifter who was actually in danger of getting pinned with a heavy snatch. In fact, she has been pinned with a heavy snatch. I'm not going to say her name. Of course, the solution to that is not more overhead squatting. It's like getting stronger overall, which a back squat is going to help with, or even a front squat.
Right.
You simply can't move as much weight in an overhead squat, which is part of the point that Nick made in his article. Is why would you squat the squat that lets you move the least amount of weight?
Yeah. So if your goal is to make your legs stronger, for instance, the overhead squat's worthless. Now, yeah, what she's basically getting at is all the stuff that I kind of tried to cover in that 2-part article. Again, you can just Google it. It's Why Don't Olympic Weightlifters Overhead Squat? It's a 2-part article. It's on Breaking Muscle, so it'll pop up real fast. But the fundamental point is that it's just not particularly helpful for most lifters. I mean, there's going to be the random lifter here and there for whom it's helpful, but that's actually quite rare, because the thing that really screws up lifters is not the overhead squat part itself. That's the easy part. I mean, the legs are usually strong enough to move the weight. It's not like they're in danger of having such a horrible core or whatever that they can't hold that weight above their head. That's not really the reason why they're missing. They're missing because they are screwed up in the transfer of that bar from their hip to overhead. That's the part that's really hard for them. They're struggling with the scary factor. I mean, it's freaky deaky to smack a weight, a barbell against your hip as hard as you can, and then have it, fly up as you fly down, and then catch it.
That's not.
That is, for a lot of people when they're first beginning, truly frightening.
It's awesome.
It's awesome
You're
for
wrong.
us. Once you're a weightlifter, it's awesome. But the truth is that it's fucking scary. Just like, parachuting is fucking scary. Or the pole vault is fucking scary, right? Like, it's supposed to be scary. Of course it's scary. Because if you do it wrong, you're going to fuck yourself up. It should be scary. But the overhead squat is not scary. That's not scary. It's not dynamic enough. What's frightening, what's screwing up your lifting is your brain not allowing yourself to be explosive off the hip, pull yourself under the bar as fast as you can, and lock out really, really hard in the bottom of an overhead squat. It's that combination of things all at once and at crazy fast speed. That's what's fucking you up. That's what screws up almost every single weightlifter I've ever seen on the snatch at the beginning, is their total inability to deal with that psychologically. So the overhead squat's worthless. It doesn't teach you those things. It's good if you don't ever snatch. If you never, ever, 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 ever snatch. If you don't do that with weights that are even remotely heavy, then yeah, the overhead squat's a great exercise, because it's going to give you, a lot of the benefits from a strength perspective in like your spinal erectors and your upper back and all kinds of other places in your abs. It is great for that stuff. The thing is if you snatch a lot of weight on a regular basis, you are overhead squatting. every single time. And so you're getting those benefits and you're fine. You don't really need to use it as a standalone exercise. That's just not particularly helpful. Now, is it going to hurt you? That's a totally different question, right? Like, can you do it if you want to? Yeah, of course you can. I don't give a shit. It's just, if you are having a really hard time snatching, I have never once, never, been coaching people for 8 years on the Olympic lifts, never has it been the overhead squat that fixed it. Not one time.
Just so you know, tomorrow we're going to get some new lifter.
Yeah, that's going to fuck it up. This is the problem with induction, by the way. So if you know what I'm talking about, induction is a lie.
The only thing that's going to fix that person is going to be an overhead squat.
Right, and the problem is the sun is not going to rise tomorrow. Just because it always has doesn't mean it's going to. So that was actually a really bad argument on my end. It's all right, induction sucks. But nonetheless,
in some,
you can overhead squat if you want to. I don't find it particularly helpful for an Olympic weightlifter. It's actually quite rare for Olympic weightlifters to do it as an exercise because they're already snatching heavy weights anyway, and that's pretty damn close to an Olympic lift, or pretty close to an overhead squat. So they're getting all the benefits from the overhead squat as a standalone exercise already, and it doesn't really help your Olympic lifts anyway. So, no, I don't see a lot of value in using the overhead squat for a competitive Olympic lifter. For somebody who does not do snatches with heavy weights, then I do. I actually do think it's a good exercise. So I don't see it as a crazy thing for CrossFitters to put it into their, 9 moves or whatever it is they call them, their primary movements that you need to know how to do. Because Olympic lifters would agree, if you can't do an overhead squat, you can't actually do an Olympic lift. It's just that it's a component of the snatch already. So we don't really split it apart from the snatch, that's all. All right. I think that's the answer to the question.
That is.
Jesus.